Okay, welcome to our second in our Legends series, and I'm very, very pleased to be joined by Peter Bird from Anglia Interiors. And today's Legends project is all about sharing smart solutions and good suggestions to the KBB industry. So my first question to you, Peter, is how many years have you worked in kitchens?
We started our business in 1974.
1974.
So that's 45 years.
45 years. And what would you say inspired you 45 years ago to set up a kitchen showroom?
If I was doing it today, do you mean, or having done it?
No, what inspired you back then, 45? What was the catalyst?
I'd been in the electrical industry more or less since leaving school.
Yeah.
We had an electrical shop, retail shop.
Right.
I made a human mistake
Was that in St. Leo's?
Yeah, I made a human mistake of bringing somebody into the business, thinking I needed them, and found I didn't, but then couldn't get rid of them.
Right.
So it was necessary for that business to survive as well, for one of us to try something different. So I offered, kitchens were beginning to buzz.
Incremental products.
Yeah, so it was a sideways step, if you like, to start doing the furniture.
So if you could offer some advice to anyone that's thinking about setting up a kitchen showroom today, what would you say would be smart advice for somebody?
I would say, first of all, don't.
Okay.
Straight away. I would say, if you're interested in the industry, ally yourself with a very good forward-thinking retailer, be it a multiple or an independent, and learn the industry before you invest. Learn the industry before you invest your money.
Right, as in, so work for perhaps a multiple retailer first, and then potentially set
if
up
you have to, yeah. Obviously, the thinking pattern between independents and multiples is different.
Yes.
But I mean, for example, I know quite a few fitters have tried to become retailers. I'm not saying they've failed, but most of them have.
Right.
So I think it's horses for courses. You are good at one thing. Don't try to be good at everything.
Okay. So you say focus on.
I think if you want to be a salesman, be a retailer.
Yeah.
If you want to be a fitter, be a fitter.
Okay.
You do need each other at the end of the day.
Okay. So if you look back 45 years ago to the kitchens you were selling then, to the kitchens we're now selling today, what benefits do you think that the customers now get in terms of specification?
Well, the quality level is higher, although not significant, not perhaps as high as people think it is.
Right.
A box is still a box. We used to have boxes that had thinner chipboard and hardboard backs that were stronger than ones that had solid backs.
Right.
And I proved that once by taking the back out of two cupboards to see which one would fall over for a customer. So I think there's a lot of, I'll call it waffle.
Smoke.
Sometimes it's smoke. That's a good word. In some people's specifications, because specifications are similar. Obviously, there's still a significant difference between.
Insulation's very important as well.
Yeah, rigid construction is always going to be better than any form of self-assembly system, and it's more fitter friendly. Or most manufacturers make a carcass that is fitter friendly.
Okay. So in terms of the customer coming in now, of course, it's a challenging marketplace for us all. Would you say there's a benefit to your business being a KBSA member, for example, in terms of consumer confidence?
I think the KBSA is on the rise, I'm sure of that. Unfortunately, I don't think the KBSA means much to many individual customers. So as a KBSA member, we're very keen on presenting the fact that we're KBSA members. We try and educate the customers what the benefits for them are that we obtain from the KBSA.
Okay. So in terms
security
of
effectively.
And confidence is what you're saying. So in terms of looking across your career, what do you think has made you as an individual, and sometimes it's very difficult talking about you yourself per se, but what's the one quality that's made you successful?
Wanting to be successful. Not wanting to be a failure.
Right, so you're determined.
I've had quite a few kicks in the proverbials over the years, and a couple of times I've used the fact that I have a kitchen business to extract my brain from the personal problems of life.
Right.
So in a way, having the business has driven me as a person.
So would you say that one of the facets of being successful is, you were talking earlier about product knowledge?
Product knowledge, being 77, when I went into any form of retailing, or people who did in those days, product knowledge was thrown at you by all types of, whether it was manufacturers or retailers.
Right.
You were bombarded with it because it was deemed to be more important than the price.
Yes.
In other words, how can you justify the price of anything if you can't actually explain to the consumer the benefits of one product over another?
Right. So
And
features
that's
benefits
stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Product knowledge,
So
product
your
knowledge.
customer comes in, you're having to educate them why they should buy a kitchen off of you.
Mm.
Yeah.
I've been told by my son that perhaps I shouldn't preach the gospel of 16mm or 18mm chipboard.
Right.
Stick to the principles of construction and design,
Okay.
which I now do.
Okay. Okay. So in terms of how you would then ask your staff to portray the features and benefits of the products and your service and your length of establishment, what training over the 45 years have you offered the team? Or do you think that
Earlier on in the past it was easier because a lot of manufacturers offered their own in-house training. It was
so we're going back to
in the 70s to the late, probably the late 80s or mid 80s. It was customary that manufacturers offered quite a lot of in-house training or support.
We're talking about product training.
Product training I'm talking now.
Sales training as
well. Product training, sales training to some degree. I think salesmen are born rather than made.
That's interesting.
There's a lot of salesmen that can become very successful. I do think that a successful salesman has got something in him
in the first
that
place
makes him different to perhaps other mortals.
Okay. So what would you say over the years, how have you encouraged training and education with Anglia Interiors over the years?
Well, being enthusiastic about the products that you offer to people. We have always researched manufacturers' products before we take a product on.
Yeah.
So we're convinced and we're keen and we're genuinely selling the customer this is the best you can get.
Training someone. So do you always grab hold of the manufacturer's course, for example?
If there's one going, yes.
In-house training per se?
Yeah, obviously BSH is our main appliance brand. They offer a lot of training.
Right. So you're saying they're a good example?
They're probably the best example.
Right, okay.
Because they're probably the only major company that now offers a proper schooling, if you like to call it that. Other people dabble, but even if it's a dabble, take it, use it, take advantage of it.
Your advice is if you're an independent retailer in KBB and then the manufacturer's offering you extra training, you should take it.
Take it, absolutely.
Yeah,
or as a retailer, if you can't find that training, then you've got to look outside the industry or outside the manufacturers to find a level of training competence available to your staff.
Okay, and there's a big piece in all the trade press currently about should we employ a designer or should we employ a salesperson? Which one do you think is most important?
I think in today's environment, the salesman is probably just as important as a salesperson, if not more so. I mean, when I started, there were probably
sales foremost.
Sales foremost, I think. It's different now. In the old days, there were two types of kitchen retailer. There was a salesman who liked designing, or there was someone who was a very good designer, probably someone who wished they could be an architect but couldn't because the standard of drawings was architectural standard.
Okay.
That meant nothing if you couldn't sell the product.
Right.
So I learned full on early on that selling was probably the major aspect of it.
Interesting. So in terms of, let's talk about now getting the right people that have got that sales attribute that you need. So over the years, how has getting good people changed and how have you done that?
Well, people don't tell the truth, first and foremost, I think, naturally. We gave up probably 3 years ago trying to, if you like, interview our own people.
Right.
It's very, very difficult. So I think it's now definitely a must that you would take the chances of employing anyone out of your own hands and, if you like, invest in an expert to sort the person out. Unless you get lucky and someone walks through the door.
It's more challenging getting good people.
It definitely it has been now for a decade. I think it's a decade.
Why I think that,
There's a lot of options of where people can get jobs.
Right. Okay.
And if you're new to the industry, i.e. you don't know the industry already,
Yes.
why would you pick the kitchen industry anyway? I mean, as you know, Simon, the kitchen industry is probably the most incestuous industry in the world. How many people do you know that have been in this industry 30 odd years and they've simply gone from manufacturer to manufacturer, but they're still in the industry?
That's right.
So the industry, I think, is good if you're in
Your
it.
advice would be to seek some support potentially to get the right person.
Yeah.
People build business, don't they?
People buy from people.
Everyone agrees with that.
People do buy from people.
Okay. Then looking at today's technology in the marketplace. So, for example, if you go back when you first started, I would imagine that you would put newspaper adverts in terms of your advertising. So now, of course, it's big discussions on websites and social media. So, do you remember the first time somebody approached you and said, Peter, you need to get a website? Do you remember who that was? Was it a local company?
Not significantly, because we've always used, and I personally have never been that knowledgeable with the whole subject, so I've left that to my son Aaron. Okay. But we used the local yokel route first of all, which was probably as good as you could get at the time. But now, obviously, we are in a more demanding and more specialised and a more consumer knowledgeable industry. I think you need people who...
Consumer knowledge,
yeah, because the computer has made everybody consumer-wise a 1 hour expert. I mean, I've been in this 45 years and I don't know it all, but how many people do we all see who are telling us about our own industry? Right. So I think you need industry experts, or you need industry expert training.
Okay. So it goes back to training about layman's terms of how can social media support,
and equally finding that sort of person in the end, you know, employer professional. It saves a lot of time and heartache.
Okay. And then just looking at the current economy in terms of the extended Brexit situation, has there been any customer comments in terms of what we'll do, we'll hang on, Peter, and wait till after Brexit, or how have you utilised that to your advantage potentially? I
think we've had now 4 or 5 months of the consumer's wallet being, you know, zip solid.
Right. That's quite a definite statement.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of interest.
Right.
There's obviously enough business.
They're doing the research still.
Well, I think they've done the research. Whether they can then be bothered to go to another 10 kitchen outlets is up to them. But I think the decision-making process is like, we're a funny lot in the UK, aren't we? The slightest little hiccup and we sort of close down instead of going forward. I mean, anyone who's projected with a building project is carrying on with that, and thankfully they are. But the people who just want to, say, possibly change a kitchen are sitting on the fence at the moment, for sure.
Okay. So is there been any examples perhaps where your staff have used that as
a yes. I mean, any sales, any hint of a sales aid is brilliant. Right. So if you can motivate people by using Brexit and what may or may not happen, because let's be fair, none of us know. Obviously, things will never go down, Brexit or no Brexit. Right. So you're not telling a lie, you're telling the truth.
Correct. So the last question for today's Legends project is, can you think about over the 45 years of your career, a very amusing or funny story that you've experienced where actually you've helped a customer, they thought they were right and perhaps they're wrong, but you've helped them?
Not significantly, Simon, but I use a saying that impressed me or influenced me. Okay. And having should we say, having got a second wife of 30 odd years, when we were in our early stages, we visited the Tower of London, which I'd done several times before. Right. Bought my ticket, walked round with the boys, and walked out again.
This been back 20 years ago?
Well, no, 1986ish, 87. Yeah. Okay. On this one occasion, I said to Valerie, who's now my wife, "Shall we just stand and listen to this guy? We might actually learn something." Right. There was a beefeater there on the steps, preaching the gospel according to the Tower of London. Right. And we stood listening to him for 10 minutes or so, and there was rustling on the left-hand side of the queue, people trying to wang their way past this, you know, audience that he's got. And as he was only about 5'5", in a booming voice, he stood aside and said, "Stand aside, let them pass, for they come knowing nothing, they go know nothing." And that's stuck in my brain. Yeah. So when people approach us in our showroom, if you just let them walk around, they know nothing. Talk to them.
You need to communicate.
Talk to me. Salesmen need to talk to communicate. Yeah. So it's not a funny story, but it's an impression.
Not having a conversation.
Salesmen need to talk, not email.
Another good bit of advice. Okay.
Hopefully.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me.
Hopefully some good advice for our watchers and listeners. Thank you.
Well, hopefully you'll have a lot more legends.
Thank you.
Yeah.